This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, there he is. He's back, baby. How you feeling? You feeling good?
Yeah, better, man. It was a rough couple of weeks, but April's here. The weather's warming up. Got the Masters. Hopefully, gonna stay dry for a couple of days, and baseball's back. Football, NFL draft is not far away. Spirit is good.
Yep. A little quiet on the free agent front. So let me ask you, leading up to the draft, if you're number one, are you taking Stroud or are you taking Young?
I'm taking C.J. Stroud. I know there have been shorter quarterbacks who have been successful, but that doesn't mean that that's the ideal. It just means it's doable. Now, it can be difficult to figure out how good Stroud's going to be because the talent, not that Young lacked for playmakers at Alabama, but the receivers in Ohio State are so good. It can be difficult to figure out how much of this is C.J. Stroud, how much of it is the coaching, how much of it is the conveyor belt at wide receiver. I mean, if you're going to scout wide receivers in college football, you watch Ohio State games because they just get wide receivers coming out of their ears to the point that Jameson Williams had to leave Ohio State and go to Alabama to get playing time, which is just crazy, right? You know, and then Jameson Williams becomes a star in his own right. I'm curious to see what he does in his first real season this year. But Stroud would be my guy at number one.
Okay. All right. That's because Mort already reported that they're going to take Bryce Young at number one. And I like Bryce Young, but dude, I like Stroud better. I just think I love his accuracy, actually. I think he's pretty accurate. And to me, that's just one of those things that I tend to gravitate to. I love accurate quarterbacks. To me, that's something that's what makes you elite is accuracy, anticipatory skills, ball placement, all those kind of things. You got to have enough of an arm, but I don't need you to have a rocket of an arm or cannon. That's not necessary in order to succeed. As long as you have a strong enough arm, it's the other things that I just talked about. Those are the things that make you elite. And when I see Stroud's accuracy, that's what maybe has the potential of being a really good quarterback.
When you're going down that list, two guys immediately popped into my mind who did not have bazookas, but were both very successful. One of them more than another because one guy had got hurt a lot. I first thought of Chad Pennington, who never had a great arm, but again, it was the ball placement, the ability to read a play, and then of course Drew Brees, and then he was a shorter quarterback too. He never would have had the strongest arm in the league or anything close to it.
Montana didn't have an arm either, bro.
Nope. No. Even Brady. I mean, Brady didn't have a bad arm, but Brady was not John Elway.
Peyton Manning didn't have a gun either, bro.
Peyton Manning didn't throw a spiral.
Yeah,
Peyton Manning threw these little wobbly ducks. Yeah,
he might have been 6'5" or whatever, but he didn't have a cannon.
Yeah.
He had a decent arm, bro. But again, anticipatory, ball placement, accuracy. He was elite in those areas,
Right. I mean, then you have a guy like Jay Cutler who could throw the ball through the car wash and not get it wet, but didn't check all the other boxes. So he had, an okay career, but probably goes down as a disappointment. Granted, plenty of strong arm quarterbacks are in the Hall of Fame, Terry Bradshaw, John Elway, but it doesn't. That to me is I can live without the arm strength. And people talk about what were the miles per hour at the combine? People want to know about that, and sometimes it's a hot point of the draft. It's going to be a fun draft too because there's so many different opinions on quarterback. We don't even have a consensus. You and I would take somebody different at number one. That sounds like who may go number one. There's a lot of different opinions about Anthony Richardson. It's going to be a fun draft because a lot of teams need quarterbacks. There's been a lot of trading already, and it's going to be more. And that's how a team can get set up, right? I mean, look at what Seattle's done with their stockpiling of picks. Look what Chicago's done with their stockpiling of picks. We know Miami's in a pick deficit because they've lost the pick recently. But the NFL draft just never disappoints. It's in fact, I will even rewatch Jerry Maguire. I might even rewatch Draft Day, which I think is kind of a pretty bad movie. But they both focus on the NFL draft. What's that?
Draft Day is not that good.
No, it's not. I think Jerry Maguire's rewatchable though, and it's very
yes.
It's not my favorite Cameron Crowe movie, but it's a good one. And obviously a lot of it centers around the NFL draft and a quarterback going number one. And so I usually fire that up about once a year around this time.
I enjoyed Moneyball 1,000 times more than the Browns one. What'd you say? What were the
Draft Day? You could only kind of like Draft Day in a hate watch sort of way. It's not a movie to be taken seriously.
Did you enjoy Moneyball?
For sure. I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman's my favorite actor of all time, and It's a great story. The Oakland A's, I don't know why they couldn't win a championship. Now, granted, Moneyball, both the book and the movie.
Well, remember the problem was that they didn't see when the guy in the Cubs and the Red Sox,
Joe Epstein.
Epstein, right? See, Epstein literally added money to the Moneyball.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I get it. Moneyball is actually the opposite, where you're trying to find guys that don't make money, that but can get you the stats and those kind of things. So I understand the gist of Moneyball, but see, Theo looked at it and said, "Okay, no, I like that, except I'm going to add money to it, and then I'll win." You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah, you want both. You want to be smart with how you spend, but also have a lot of money to spend, for sure.
Exactly. You want to be smart in getting the highly efficient player that you're going to have to pay money to. But yeah, that's the guy, not the efficient player that's kind of under the radar and that kind of stuff. Like in Moneyball, that they got 3 guys together to make Giambi, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, it's but I got to tell you, man, I enjoy the hell out of Moneyball. Every time I watch it, or if I run into it when I'm channel surfing, I'll just find myself stopping there, because I thought Brad Pitt did a really, really good job of playing the Billy Bean role. I thought that was really cool.
Moneyball, very rewatchable. But as you said, it's nice to have resources. I mean, the way, ideally, the way you run a baseball team is you overpay the top, small percentage of your roster, and then you make all the surplus money back on the guys who aren't making any money yet.
Right.
And so people might say, well, how could you pay that guy $250 million in free agency or whatever? You're not trying to make money on that deal. You're going to make that money back on the players who don't have any agency yet, and you can underpay them in the early parts of their career. My one quibble, and
by the way, that's been Tampa's and Oakland's, downfall, that
for sure
they don't add money to their exceptional baseball decisions, because they do make great baseball decisions overall. But if they had just enough money to add a couple of stars on top of the baseball decisions that they make, they would probably already have titles.
For sure. You could argue Tampa Bay really is the version of Moneyball now, where they're trying to play smart, but they don't have the spending that other teams do. My one quibble with, and read the book and watch the movie anyway and enjoy it. And I don't want to be literal guy, or, it's not completely true. But my one quibble with Moneyball is both the book and the movie is they spend so little time talking about the fact that the A's had 3 great pitchers in Mulder and Zito. They had the 2003 American League MVP award winner in Miguel Tejada, and they also had Eric Chavez, who before he got hurt was probably on a Hall of Fame trajectory. So this wasn't all Scott Hanneberg and platoon guys and middle relievers and stuff. I mean, they had star power on that team, and it gets downplayed in both the book and the movie. But still, as you said, Brad Pitt knocks it out of the park. Brad Pitt's just a movie star. He's just anything he's in is generally enjoyable to watch. Jonah Hill is really well cast. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman and his supporting roles. Yeah, it's a great movie, and also it looks like a baseball movie, right? I mean, when they're talking to David Justice or the guy playing David Justice taking batting practice, whoever that actor is ripped. The guy's hitting line drives in the batting cage. A lot of times sports movies don't look. I mean, I love Bull Durham, but come on, Tim Robbins is a baseball pitcher. He looks like he's not coordinated at all, right? Moneyball at least cares about getting the baseball right.
Yeah, but see, here's the difference, right? But now we got to be honest now, okay? Bull Durham was filmed at a time when conditioning wasn't really that top notch like it is now, because Bull Durham was filmed in the 80s, bro. So back in the 80s, we still had players that went to training camp, bro, smoking cigarettes and drinking beer. And then that's when they started to lose weight, when they started spring training or when they started training camp in football or whatever it was, because back in the 80s, that's kind of what you did. So it's a little bit more believable that some of those guys may not look in great shape. Nowadays, athletes are completely different. Nowadays,
that's a fair argument, but Tim Robbins looks like he has no athletic coordination. I mean, at least Kevin Costner is athletic, right? I mean, he looks like a jock. He's believable as an athlete, and he's obviously been in a lot of sports movies. We did a few episodes ago. You and I did a segment which was almost entirely sports movies. People should go back and listen to that. And one of our takeaways was that everybody should watch North Dallas 40, which is a hidden gem. But Bull Durham, Ron Shelton. You can't go wrong with Ron Shelton movies. He also did
No.
Tin Cup, which is I think a
Oh,
fascinating movie.
God.
And they made there it was hard for Costner because he wasn't a great golfer, and they had to make his golf swing believable. And they did the best they could. They were never going to make Costner look like Fred Couples. That's fine. And so he had kind of an abbreviated little herky-jerky swing. So they said, well, Tim McAvoy played in West Texas. He had to play the ball down because it was windy. That's the way they wrote the story to fit the fact that Costner just didn't have a PGA Tour swing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many of us do? You know what I'm
Do you have a
saying?
PGA Tour swing, Big O?
No.
Are you a golfer at all? By the way, I don't even know if you do play.
No, what I do is not called golfing. No. I go screw around with a cigar and a beer, and then I spray the ball all over the place. And yeah, I'm not the guy that takes it serious in the foursome. I'm the guy screwing around.
I like golf. Once I learned to not take golf seriously, I started to enjoy it more.
Exactly.
I have some ability, but nothing. Whatever. It's the most important thing you can do in life is get over yourself and realize, look, I'm never going to be a PGA Tour pro. I'm never going to be the best player in my club or anything like that. I'm just trying to have some fun with my friends, have a drink, laugh at each other. And the great thing about golf, no matter how bad you are, you'll kick it around for a few hours. You're going to hit one magical shot and be like, oh, well, I can't wait to play tomorrow.
Exactly, dude. Yes, exactly. And that's me. I just want to screw around, and I know I'm not good at it, and I'm not going to try to be good at it because it's too difficult for me to be really good at it. Now, let's go to the putt-putt range. I'll kick your ass. Okay? That's it. I'll get it right through the windmill and hit the damn hole and everything, and I'll figure out the bumper and the angle to get it past the brick in the middle or whatever. Putt-putt, I'm kicking some ass, but regular golfing, bro. No, I'm not.
Putting is a great equalizer, man.
Yeah. It's I actually have a putting green in my house.
Do you really?
Yeah, we got artificial turf in our backyard, and then on the side of my house, it's like it's about 15 yards, and it's a whole putting green with a couple holes, and so the wife and I go out and probably do it a little bit this weekend. We'll go out in the backyard, mess around, and have a couple of drinks and talk and work on the short game.
You've been night putting, is that what you're saying?
Night putting, day putting, putting around all over the place. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Remember Caddyshack? Remember it was Chevy Chase's old roommate who was thrown out of college because he was night putting at night with the daughter of the dean.
Exactly. Yes. So all kinds of putting going on in the Alzugaray household. All right. So I got a question for you. Mm-hmm. Kraft was asked this week if Bill Belichick, if he struggles again and doesn't make the playoffs, it'll be 3 out of 4 years. And what if he is not doing well over the next couple of years? Is he going to stick around just to beat Don Shula's record? Obviously, nobody down here wants to see that, but he is 30 games behind Don Shula. That's going to take probably at least 4 to 5 seasons, considering that this team is not that good. And it looks like if Rodgers goes to the Jets, the entire division has passed up the Patriots. So if you're Robert Kraft, do you do to Belichick what Belichick never did to his players? Because he never hung on to players. He always got off the gravy train before the gravy train was done.
A year early, yeah.
So what does Robert Kraft do in this case?
I think it's headed to an ugly divorce. And I would even argue, no matter what the Jets do, I think the Patriots have the weakest roster in the AFC East. Because remember, the Jets are loaded everywhere else. They have a terrific roster. They don't have quarterback solved yet. And man, Aaron Rodgers, that story's never going to end. Between Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers, it feels like this has been going on for 5 years where these guys are going to play. I just wish they'd get it resolved. It sure feels like the Packers and the Jets and Rodgers should all figure it out. And I don't know why they haven't yet. A lot of times the draft is an elixir for that stuff to happen. But there's a line from Cocktail, another movie that's like a bad movie, but you can watch it and enjoy it because it's bad, where Brian Brown, the mentor to Tom Cruise, says, "Look, everything ends." But
isn't
badly.
Elizabeth Shue in that movie?
Oh, she's adorable, isn't she? Yes, she is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Elizabeth Shue being in a movie can be bad. If you get to enjoy her for 90 minutes,
she's delightful. She's not in the movie all that much, and actually, you could even argue the parts she's in, no fault of her own, are the weaker parts of the movie. Because I think the best parts of Cocktail are the the scenes with Cruz and Blair Brown.
True.
But or Brian Brown, I forget what that actor's name is. But anyway, the mentor says in the movie, he's all these Coughlin's laws, and one of them is everything ends badly, or else it wouldn't end. And that's how I feel about Belichick and Kraft. There's no John Elway, Super Bowl on the way out, have a parade. And even John Elway, it ended bad for him in the Broncos. They've quietly let him go. He's no longer even a consultant with the team.
I know.
He was the GM for about a decade. He was part of getting Manning there. He's been on the payroll for a couple of years. They finally kind of quietly let him go. So everything ends badly, Big O, or else it wouldn't end. I think this is going to end badly for Belichick and Kraft.
Shula, Chuck Noll, Tom Landry.
For sure. It ended badly for all
Did any
those
of
guys.
them end nicely? No, they were
Tony
kind of
La Russa, Hall of Fame baseball coach. He embarrassed himself in Chicago. He goes on and on. Franco Harris on the Seahawks.
Yeah, but Tony La Russa does some things that you shouldn't be doing. Okay. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's Franco Harris on the Seahawks. Willie Mays falling down in the outfield. It's even Brady, right? I mean, losing season his last year. I know they made the playoffs because the division was horrible. You think Brady doesn't wish he went out on the Super Bowl year or the playoff loss to the Rams the next year where he still had great stats? He was a compromised guy last year. Although, San Francisco and Brady still looks like a really good fit for me because that infrastructure is so good. But here's the question to me is that if Kraft makes it known that he wants it, he'll probably go to Bill and say, look, let's end this amicably. We don't want to embarrass you. You're a legend. You owe so much to you. And Belichick's a stubborn guy. He'll probably be like, well, he probably won't go along for that, I would guess, in a year or two. Does Belichick go coach some lousy team just to get – remember, back to Bull Durham, right? Bull Durham goes to play for like the Memphis Tourists to break the home run record, the minor league home run record. He just holds on long enough to do it. Pete Rose held out long enough, hitting 235 for the Cincinnati Reds to get the hit record. He was willing to play for the Montreal Expos briefly before that fell apart, and he brokered a deal back to the Reds so he could end his career with a little bit of dignity. And then, of course, he threw up all over himself with the gambling problems and trying to stonewall that. I still think if Pete Rose just apologized and showed contrition for like 8 seconds, America would love him. But what made him great kind of took him down. Would Bill Belichick go coach a lousy football team to pass Don Shula?
Will a team bring Bill Belichick on knowing that he has been so bad with personnel and he's going to want complete personnel control? And that's the question I have, that as great as he's been, I don't know if somebody's going to give him another chance, only because if you're honest with yourself, you don't want him handling personnel. Can his ego handle that when you tell him, well, Bill, maybe we can hire you, but you can't be in charge of personnel here? Because I think that's what's going to stop him from getting another job, because he's going to want control. And if you have any common sense, you don't give him control in personnel.
Don't forget that the NFL is full of recycling ideas. The NFL would rather recycle any old idea than try something new. And if some team, think back to the Buccaneers when they won that first championship, where they kind of went as far as they could go with Tony Dungy, and they needed somebody to kick the door down. I actually think John Gruden is one of the most overrated coaches in NFL history, but he was the right guy to come in and put them over the cliff, right? Maybe now this would never happen with the Jets because Belichick and the Jets have bad blood, but let's just pretend that didn't happen. And for whatever reason, Robert Saleh doesn't work out, and the Jets are like, oh, we're so close. Who could push us over the cliff? Now, there's so much bad blood. This would never happen between Belichick and the Jets. But if there's another team out there, I don't know, maybe the Lions, miss the playoffs by one game again. And they think, okay, we've gone as far as Dan Campbell can take us. Maybe Belichick coached the Lions a million years ago as one of their seventh assistant on the staff or whatever. Somebody will talk themselves into it, right? It doesn't matter what you do. Somebody will keep Rick Pitino for all the misdeeds he's done. St. John said, okay, well, the guy wins. We want Rick Pitino. There's always going to be he only takes one team. And I still think Belichick is an amazing coach. As you said, his fatal flaw is that he doesn't have somebody to talk him out of a bad idea. He's been given too many things to do. He's spread too thin. He needs that consigliere. He needs little Steven next to Tony Soprano. And right now he doesn't have that.
I'm with you there, man. By the way, what's it called? Damn it! What was I going to ask you now? I forgot that what was I going to ask you? Jesus. What was I going to say? Oh, your thoughts on Tyreek Hill talking about retirement 3 years from now?
The NFL every season is like a dog year season. 7, it's just crazy for anybody to say that, because for all I know, he could retire sooner. He could retire 3 years later. It just you shouldn't make any long-term plan in the NFL. It's just not a long-term league. It's a year-to-year league.
I'm with you there. Although I got to say something. He is smart because he wants to get into the gaming business. And the gaming business is going to explode now.
It's exploding. That's
with
the
the
money
metaverse
printer.
and Web3 and the blockchains and all these projects that are coming out now. It is just absolutely going to explode. So he's pretty smart. I was at the drone racing league here in Miami, and he was there, racing one of the drones before the big race.
I bet Tyreek Hill over the drone. That's
right.
My bet.
Yeah, and it's like really smart of him to be in the drone racing league and going out there and kind of exposing himself to that kind of market. So if you're going to go somewhere after football, gaming is pretty smart on his part.
For sure. It's going to explode. It's already exploded. And it's only going to get bigger as more and more states, as we've seen the walls get knocked down. The Internet Gaming Act got repealed a couple of years ago, and I mean, look, the funny thing is, I'm in favor of gaming as long as you do it responsibly and everything, but it's so obtrusive. You can't get away from it. Everywhere on my social media, I'm just being told, oh, you can bet on this, you can bet on this, you can bet on this. And I grew up at the track. I grew up in poker games. I'm favorable to this stuff. And even I'm like feeling like it's been shoved down my throat a little bit too much. But yeah, Tyreek Hill knows where the league is headed. And look, the NFL, right? The NFL has always had a buoyancy based on two things. People love gambling and people love fantasy football. And so what that means is you can have the two worst teams in the NFL playing on a Thursday night, and that game will be the highest rated thing on television. It doesn't matter if there's a big NBA game that night, or it doesn't matter if there's a big college football game. People will watch the two lousiest teams in the NFL. And why? Because there's two built-in things that people will always care about.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of action in Vegas. No doubt about that. All right, what do you got going on Yahoo so folks can check you out, my friend?
Sure. A lot of baseball this time of year, and also the Yahoo Fantasy Football Forecast. Matt Harmon is our regular host. I was on this week to talk about what the Lions might do. They have 2 first-round picks, ton of content coming up with the NFL draft and the fantasy football game. I don't know the exact date, but we generally open it right after the NFL draft. So if you're eager to get started for your 2023 season, there's no wrong time to get going. We have you covered at Yahoo Sports.
There you go. And follow him on Twitter at Scott_Pianowski. Scotty, as always, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you immensely. Have a great weekend.
Great to talk to you, Big O. Be good.
Thank you, sir. There you go. Sports Grill, 8 great locations, baby. Find the one nearest you and enjoy some great food with your friends and family members and some great sports at Sports Grill all throughout South Florida.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.